You've been calling it wisdom, you've been calling it faithfulness, you've been calling it staying grounded. But what if I told you that the very thing you think is keeping you safe is actually the reason you can't move? Every ship has an anchor. It's designed to hold you in place during storms. But here's what they don't tell you in church. There comes a moment when that anchor becomes your greatest enemy. Brandon discovered this at 3:32 in the morning, staring at the same Bible verse he'd been reading for 6 years. Same church, same prayers, same life, nothing changed. And in that moment, God whispered something that terrified him. You're not stuck because you're faithless, you're stuck because you won't let go. By the end of this, you'll understand the hidden mechanism that's been holding millions of believers in place, and the exact moment you need to cut it loose. Here's what nobody's saying: anchors are brilliant for survival, terrible for destiny. When Jesus called Peter to walk on water, he didn't say make sure you're anchored first. He said come, one word, no safety net, no backup plan, just movement. But somewhere along the way, we got taught that faith means staying put. We confuse stability with stagnation. We turn security into a spiritual virtue. You wake up every morning knowing you're capable of more. You feel it in your bones. But then you look at what you've built, your routine, your relationships, your religious habits, and you think, I can't risk all this. God gave me these anchors for a reason. Here's the truth that'll make you uncomfortable. God gave you anchors for survival in the shallows. He never meant for you to stay there. Think about it, every major biblical breakthrough happened after someone released their anchor. Abraham left his country, Moses left Egypt, Ruth left Moab, Paul left Phariseeism. They didn't adjust their position, they cut the line completely. The Israelites had an anchor too. It was called Egypt. Sure, they were slaves, but at least they knew what to expect. 3 meals a day, familiar suffering, predictable oppression. When God said go to the promised land, they panicked. Why? Because the promised land required them to cut every anchor they'd ever known. And here you are, promising God you'll do whatever He asks, as long as you don't have to leave your safe harbor. Let me show you exactly what's holding you in place. Most people think it's one big thing. It's not. It's 3 silent anchors and you don't even realize they're there. Anchor 1, familiar pains. You know exactly what your current struggle feels like. You've mastered surviving it, the unknown breakthrough that terrifies you, better the devil you know right. This is why people stay in dead-end jobs, why they remain in toxic relationships, why they keep attending churches that drain their soul. The pain is familiar, change is not. Anchor 2, other people's expectations. Your family expects you to stay who you've always been. Your friends need you to remain their emotional support. Your church relies on you to fill that volunteer slot. The moment God says it's time to move, you hear their voices. But what about us? You're being selfish. You're abandoning your responsibilities. No, you're not abandoning anyone. You're obeying a command from the one who made you. Anchor 3, religious routine. This one's dangerous because it looks holy. You've got your morning devotional, your small group, your service schedule, all good things. But when God says, I'm doing something new, you say, but I've always done it this way. You turned your relationship with Him into a checklist, and now the checklist is your master. Here's how you know if something's an anchor or a lifeline. Does it give you life or just prevent you from drowning? If your routine, your relationships, your responsibilities are just keeping you afloat, barely surviving, they're not from God. They're weights. Brandon, 34, project manager at a tech company, married for 9 years with 2 kids ages 5 and 7. Member of a non-denominational church for 12 years, served as a deacon for 4. Every Sunday, he'd sit in the 3rd row, same seat, nodding at the sermon. But Monday through Saturday felt like wearing someone else's skin. He'd wake at 6:15, shower, check emails, drop kids at school, sit at his desk for 8 hours managing projects he didn't care about, come home exhausted, microwave dinner, fall asleep to Netflix. His phone showed 4 hours 18 minutes on social media daily, 7 minutes in prayer app. He'd applied to 6 different ministry positions in 3 years. 0 responses. But here's what nobody saw. Every single night for 2 years, he'd stand in his garage at 10:37, hands trembling, whispering the same prayer. God, there's gotta be more than this. You put something in me, why won't you let me use it? Wednesday, March 22nd, 3:32 in the morning. His daughter's cough woke him. After checking on her, he sat on the edge of his bed, opened his Bible app to Hebrews 6:19 for probably the 100th time that year. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul. And God spoke, not audibly, but clear as daylight. Brandon, that verse is being misread. An anchor keeps a ship from moving. I never called you to stay anchored, I called you to sail. Thursday morning, he did something that made no sense. He called his senior pastor and resigned from the deacon board. His wife stared at him like he'd lost his mind. His best friend said, "You're going through a midlife crisis." He wasn't quitting church. He was quitting the version of church that had become his anchor. For 40 days, he cut everything that felt like obligation without divine assignment. No more volunteering just to fill slots. No more attending events just to be seen. No more pretending to be fine when he was dying inside. Day 4, 6:15 in the morning, he didn't check his phone. Instead, he opened his journal and wrote one question: God, if I had zero expectations from others, what would you have me do today? Day 8, his mom called. Your pastor said you stepped down. What's wrong with you? Brandon replied. Nothing's wrong, something's finally right. Day 14, 6:15 a.m. writing in his journal. A name he hadn't thought about in 4 years appeared in his mind. Marcus, a guy from his old neighborhood who'd gotten out of prison 2 years ago. Brandon felt the prompting, call him. Day 23, he'd been meeting with Marcus every Wednesday for breakfast. Marcus mentioned he knew 12 other ex-offenders who were struggling to find work and purpose. Brandon listened, and suddenly clarity hit him like lightning. This was it, not a ministry application, not waiting for someone to give him permission, just obedience. 40 days later, Brandon hadn't started some massive nonprofit. He had something better, purpose. He was meeting with a small group of men, helping them navigate reentry, connecting them with job resources, sharing Jesus naturally in conversations over coffee. His worship leader pulled him aside one Sunday. Man, I don't know what happened to you, but you're different. You used to look exhausted every Sunday. Now you look alive. His wife said at dinner on day 52, remember when you said God told you to cut the anchor? I thought you were crazy. But watching you now, I've never seen you more at peace. Brandon didn't become a celebrity pastor. He became someone who stopped waiting for permission to walk in what God already put inside him. So how do you actually do this? How do you cut an anchor that's been there for years? It's not complicated, but it will cost you something. Step 1, identify what's masquerading as faithfulness. Ask yourself this question with brutal honesty. If God told me to leave this job, city, relationship, ministry role, routine tomorrow, what's the first excuse I'd give him? That excuse, that's your anchor. Write it down, name it. You can't cut what you won't acknowledge. Step 2, differentiate between assignment and anchor. Not everything needs to be cut. Some things are divinely assigned. Here's the test. Does this give me life or just prevent me from drowning? Does this connect me to God's purpose or just fill time? Am I here because He said stay or because I'm afraid to live? If you can't answer those questions clearly, you need to fast and pray until you can. Step 3, the 40-day cut. This isn't about quitting everything, it's about obeying everything. For 40 days, you cut one anchor, the biggest one, the one that makes your stomach flip just thinking about releasing it. Maybe it's the approval of a parent who's never supported your calling. Maybe it's the financial security you've been clinging to while God's been whispering entrepreneurship. Maybe it's the religious routine that's become more about appearing spiritual than actually being transformed. You don't announce it on social media. You don't make it a dramatic exit. You simply quietly, obediently cut the line. Step 4, walk on water. Here's what happens after you cut the anchor. You'll panic. Your natural instinct will scream, go back to safety. This is the moment Peter felt when he stepped out of the boat. Suddenly, the water that looked solid starts feeling very liquid. But here's what you need to understand. God doesn't call you to walk on water just to watch you drown. He calls you to walk on water so you finally understand who you've always been. You're not someone who needs an anchor. You're someone who walks on impossibility because the one who made the sea told you to come. Every morning for 40 days before your feet hit the floor, speak this out loud. I am not anchored to fear. I am not anchored to approval. I am not anchored to the familiar. I am released to move with God. And then you take one step of obedience that day. Just one, not 10, one. Call that person, submit that resignation, book that flight, send that email, make that investment, have that conversation. One step repeated for 40 days. By day 40, you won't recognize your life. Not because everything changed externally, because you finally became internally what God's been calling you to be all along. Father, right now, we recognize the anchors we've been calling wisdom. We cut them. In the name of Jesus, we cut the anchor of familiar pain. We cut the anchor of other people's expectations. We cut the anchor of religious routine that has no life. We release ourselves from the safe harbor. We are not disobedient, we are not reckless, we are obedient. You said come, we're coming. You said move, we're moving. You said let go, we're releasing. Every chain that's been disguised as security, cut. Every weight that's been labeled as wisdom, released. Every anchor that's prevented us from walking on water, gone. We are not staying where we've always been just because it's comfortable. We are going where you're calling us, even if it terrifies us. The anchor is cut. The ship is moving. We are free. In Jesus' name, ANCHORSUP. Amen. Comment anchors up if you just made the decision to cut what's been holding you back. If you're tired of surviving in the shallows when God's called you to the deep, the video on your screen shows you the exact 40-day protocol to activate what you've been sitting on. Like this if something shifted inside you. Share it with someone who's been stuck in the same safe harbor for too long. Subscribe because every week I bring you what God is saying to the generation that refuses to stay anchored to fear. Become a member for content that goes deeper into cutting spiritual anchors and walking in the freedom God designed for you. Drop your breakthrough declaration in the comments, your name, what anchor you're cutting, what God's calling you toward. We're believing with you. The question isn't whether God has more for you. The question is, are you brave enough to cut the anchor and find out?